This is The Toss-Up, where we take a look at some of the topics facing the world of sports, and then we dive deeper. Whether it's your best friend's fantasy team or the future of college athletics, we're just trying to expand the conversation. We just want to look at the topics that keep you tuned in to the beautiful world of sports. Soccer is the next best big thing in America. That's the claim I have heard for more than half of my lifetime. Soccer is ready to arrive in America. You know what that is? A blatant lie. In this country, soccer is nowhere near the relevancy that it aspires to. Soccer is nowhere near the relevancy it truly deserves, and in my opinion, it won't be until we see a drastic change. A change that appears to be driven by one man, former U.S. men's national team legend and current Fox Sports analyst Alexi Lalas. A few weeks ago, Alexi Lalas may have just sparked a revolution in how we cover soccer in this country. A revolution based on a culture of accountability. A few weeks ago, Lalas turned to the camera and sent a message that really never has been sent before. He called upon the players of the U.S. men's national team to be better. He pointed at all-stars like Michael Bradley and Clint Dempsey and told them to go beyond their comfort zone. He pushed Jozy Altidore and Jeff Cameron to reach a new level. He even called upon wonder kid Christian Pulisic. He did all of that in the hopes that this generation of soccer players wouldn't squander years of progress by missing the 2018 World Cup. So today, we ask, was he right? Hello, folks. I'm Eddie Cotton, and joining me on the panel today is IDS Soccer beat reporter Josh Eastern, IUS TV Soccer men's beat reporter Juan Alvarado, and IU sports media connoisseur Griffin Weinberg. And Josh, I'm going to start with you. Was Alexi Lalas right?
I think he was spot on. This team has really struggled in this World Cup qualifying phase, and it started with Jurgen Klinsmann. He was fired, and I think was probably rightly so, after that embarrassing loss to Mexico at home and another loss on the road. But now Bruce Arena stepped in, and they lost at home also. And now the onus is all on Bruce Arena to take this team to the next level. And he's not playing. He just turned 66. He's definitely not playing. He needs to put this team in a position to get to the World Cup. They're in that position right now, but it's on those players, like you said, Michael Bradley, Clint Dempsey in his new role, Jeff Cameron. They need to take this team to the next level. You cannot miss the World Cup. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I think that he was definitely right in what he had to say, because if Bruce Arena or if no one else is going to speak out to the team, Alexi Lalas had to be the guy to do it. He is the one who had to send the message. Now, going back to your point about Jurgen Klinsmann, personally, I think that he might have got the axe a little bit too early. I know he had that bad loss to Mexico, and then he lost to, I believe it was Costa Rica around the same time too. It's just 2 straight losses, and then he was gone. You forget about what he did at the 2014 World Cup in the group of death stage. The only team that he lost to was Germany, the eventual champions of the World Cup. Ended up taking the team to the round of 16, where the USMNT probably shouldn't have been there in the first place in the group of death. So I think that he had a lot of success. He got the axe early, but I mean, that's besides the point now. Bruce Arena is there. He's the guy. Alexi Lalas, he had to be the one to call out the team because no one else is going to do it. It's just kind of a shame. I feel like that the players aren't really buying into that, or they're just kind of like acting as like a joke.
I feel like something we got to take into account is that Lalas is from a different era of soccer. Before, you used to see Lalas playing, his highlights were on the U.S. men's soccer jersey. Pelés were with the Brazil jersey, Maradona's with the Argentinian jersey. Right now, all the players, their highlights are with the club jersey. That's where they get the money from. And when they come to play for national teams, sometimes they come in orders from their coaches not to do this slide, not to go too hard in this one, because in the end of the day, you got to return to your club in order to perform for the team that's paying you the most.
It's important you mention that, but then why put on the jersey anyway? What's the point in putting on the jersey if you're not going to compete out there? And that's probably why it's important that people like Alexi Lalas from that older generation make those claims and call these players out.
Yeah, you need to sweat the national team's jersey every time you put it on. If you come here like, I might as well play or not, then you shouldn't be called, or you shouldn't be considered to play, to represent your country.
And I think that's part of the reason why Jurgen Klinsmann was axed so early, is because he was putting these players in situations where they had never really played before they got to the U.S. men's national team. They were playing out of position in that match against Mexico where they lost at home in Columbus. They played 3 at the back, and I don't think the U.S. had played 3 at the back of any World Cup qualifying stage until that one match, and he threw it on them right away. But then you saw Bruce Arena. He basically had 2 different teams when they went down to Mexico City to play Mexico in that second game. He had one team play in the home match, and then when they went to Mexico, it was basically an entire new team. He has this team prepared. They have a vision, and now they just have to go complete it.
Yeah, and going back to the point of Jurgen Klinsmann, I'll agree with you on that. He was a futuristic kind of coach. He wasn't really thinking about the now. It always kind of seemed like he was really looking forward to the future. I mean, you think about Julian Green, and everyone was saying that he could be like the next Lionel Messi at the World Cup. He was the youngest person to score at the time. Even had like the same picture of him and Messi side by side, pointing right after he scored. Too many comparisons for the young guy. He did that with a couple of other players too. So he was thinking about the future. But then, Juan, going back to your point about talking about the players, they need to sweat it out when they put on that national team jersey. After Alexi Lawless's statement, you see players on the national team tweeting out like Josie Altidore. He said, "I don't even have any tattoos," and then like a laughing emoji. See guys like Pulisic and then Michael Bradley saying the line doesn't take the opinion of a sheep, and we're not going to lose any sleep over this.
Yeah, then it depends of how they see Lawless. If they see him as a role model or just this guy who like left soccer to become a commentator. You know, we have this memory of Lawless, like this crazy guy, bandana on his head, long hair, playing the guitar on his free time. You know, it depends on how they see it. If someone else steps up and calls them out, and this time they respect him. The players may like react to it and start playing the way the people and the former players want them to play.
Well, you mentioned that, but are those entities around? Are there people out there other than Alexi Lawless that are not only respected enough but willing to make these call-outs?
Probably inside of their locker room, but not in social media or in the media whatsoever.
And I think that's the biggest issue right now, is there isn't anybody like Alexi Lawless calling these people out. In almost any other sport, you have somebody like Skip Bayless who's calling somebody out. That's a bad example. But I mean, you still need these type of people to motivate these players. I mean, I mean, we live in an age where all these athletes, most of them are on Twitter, social media, whatever it may be. They hear the outside world kind of talking to them. Now, whether they want to accept that they hear that, that's a different story. But you need people kind of urging you on, especially like Alexi Lawless, former player. He was a very good player in a few World Cups, and he really sent a clear message to this team.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, if it's not going to be Alexi Lawless, I'd love to see a guy like Landon Donovan, you know, speak out to like that. Someone who really has that stature with the national team. But I'm glad that he's the person who had to say it, because someone had to come out and someone had to put this team on blast, because it just seems like they're kind of taking it as a joke. I mean, you look at after the Costa Rica loss, Bruce Arena, after the match, he was asked what went wrong. He said, "Oh, well, I was outcoached in this one." And usually a lot of coaches don't like to admit that, but he said that he was outcoached. After all the media went away and the cameras were off him, he said, "Yeah, I was just kind of joking with you guys. I didn't want you to rag on all of the other players. I want the focus on me." So he wanted the focus on him, but he just said, "I was joking around." You just lost 2-0 to Costa Rica. You can't be joking around after that kind of match. That just can't happen. And right now, I just don't know how serious this team is.
And you mentioned the need to be serious. What is this team's outlook moving into the rest of World Cup qualifiers? Do you think the U.S. men's national team is in?
Yeah, I mean, they have Panama at home. That should be a very winnable game. It's in Orlando.
It's a must-win.
It is a must-win game. They're right now tied in fourth place with Honduras, 9 points. You just had a draw with Honduras. You had a chance to potentially create a little bit of room. Couldn't quite do it. You play Panama at home. That has to be a win. Absolutely has to be a win. Then you go on the road, Trinidad and Tobago. That should be a win. They're last in the group, and they're pretty much out of it at this point. You need to get 6 points out of these next 2 matches. That'll get you into the World Cup. 4 might be able to do it, get you in that playoff spot.
Yeah, it's key. It's qualifiers, that's the key. Winning everything you can at home and like grab a couple of points on the road whenever you can. That's how most of the team qualify in South America sometimes too.
But
Yeah,
even,
go ahead.
you know, I was going to say, like, I mean, even if the national team ends up beating both Panama and Trinidad and Tobago, I think it's the manner in which they win will determine how they act when they go into the World Cup, should they end up qualifying. Because they can't go into Panama and squeak out like a 1-0 win. They can't go to Trinidad and Tobago and then just end up winning 1-0. They have to annihilate these teams. They really have to get that composure back. They have to get the momentum back that they had in the 2014 World Cup. So it can't just be 2 easy wins. They really have to go in and give everything that they have.
Yeah, and CONCACAF is just kind of an interesting region, if you will, just in world soccer, because you have so many kind of different styles of play with these teams wanting to maybe push the tempo a little bit. It's a little bit of a different style of play than you see here in America or other countries. I think U.S. wants to play more of a possession style, while all these other Hispanic teams, they want to push it up and down. And I think that causes the U.S. a little bit of discomfort, especially when they go on the road.
Going with that, and what you said about like annihilate teams. Do we want the U.S. team to play good and win, or to like show a bad display of soccer and get like a 1-0 win and still get the 3 points? Do we rather see the team play well, or win playing bad?
I don't want to see them win playing bad, because if they win playing bad, then you're going to have all these critics come out and they're going to keep saying the same thing. Doesn't matter if they won, they still look bad. Taylor Twellman, after that 1-1 draw against Honduras, he was asked, how do you feel about this? Like, a late match goal to tie it up against Honduras, you can't feel good. You just see that this team is not fully into it right now. I don't know what it is, but they have to recapture that magic.
But in the same way, in 2006, Italy won the cup, right? And the only game they played well was against Germany in the semifinals. They beat them 2-0. That was the only game Italy actually played a good game. The rest of the games were only counterattacks, like 1-0 wins. Even the U.S. complicated them in the group stage, that World Cup.
And the way
Sometimes playing bad gets you results.
Sometimes it does, but the United States is not Italy. Italy is a different brand of soccer. It's much different overseas. It's not the United States. We have to play our own kind of soccer. And right now, it just doesn't really seem that we're playing that way.
But I think at this point in the group stage, getting to the World Cup, you just have to get to the World Cup. I don't think it matters at this point.
Is that the goal?
Yes. I think that is the goal, plain and simple. You can go on the road. If you need to win 1-0 at Trinidad, so be it. This team has to get to the World Cup. You were talking about it in your monologue. They've been given everything. Alexi Lalas said it when he went on his statement. They've been giving everything, and you need to capitalize on that. Soccer's never been bigger in America than this moment right now. You have to capitalize on that. I don't care how they do it. It just has to be done.
Right.
That's why they fired Jurgen Klinsmann and brought in Bruce Arena.
And to run with that sentiment, how traumatic would it be for this country's progress in the sport of soccer if they didn't make the 2018 World Cup?
They would lose a lot of fans, I think. Because I think during the 2014 World Cup and that run, that's really when soccer in the United States hit its peak, or really started to grow at its fastest way. If they don't make the World Cup, a lot of people are going to start to tune out a little bit, because so many people in the United States, we're not all MLS fans, we're not all Premier League fans, we don't all watch every Real Madrid and Barcelona match. A lot of people only like to pay attention to the United States national team. And if they don't do what we expect them to do, then people are going to start tuning out. They're just going to become irrelevant.
Yeah, and I mean, in the summer, there's really, you have baseball going on, but in a World Cup summer, that's the big thing going on in sports. You have to be able to capitalize on bringing those fans into the sport, because, like we said, it's never been bigger in America. You have to capitalize on this. I know Fox Sports is really hoping that the U.S. makes it just for their sake, but during a World Cup summer, that's what engulfs kind of world sports media, is the World Cup. The U.S. needs to be a part of that.
Especially with the host country being Russia. Historically, almost a rival for the U.S. in every single sport.
Not even every single sport, just kind of in general. It seems like we're almost rivals with Russia.
Yeah.
So the ratings are going to be up.
And looking forward beyond that, the U.S. making a bid to be a part of that 2026 World Cup. Where does that go if this team can't make the World Cup?
I think it's still kind of in the talk, because it's still a big deal to host the World Cup. And I don't think if the U.S. doesn't make this World Cup that soccer's going to be completely dead. They still have young players coming up through the ranks. Their U20 team has been very successful, their U17 team as well. So I think there's still a lot of talent there, but it's never been bigger this moment, and you need to take advantage of that and create momentum going forward.
Yeah, I think, if the U.S. wasn't to make the 2018 World Cup, we're going to lose a lot of fans. I believe that, but I don't think it's going to diminish soccer in the United States at 100%. I just think that the level of watching it and then people wanting to tune in is just going to go down a little bit. I still think that there's going to be a big audience for the World Cup should it come to the United States in 2026, because a lot of people still enjoy soccer and there's still going to be that fan base there.
Yeah, in case the U.S. doesn't qualify for this World Cup, there's always opportunity to start a new process, and we can have a goal being a protagonist in the 2026 World Cup in case we get it. But it's always good to start a process. That's why sometimes also the U.S. team right now might be a little bit off, because you start a process with Klinsmann, and then you axe him and bring a new guy in. It's hard for players in the locker room to like adapt to a new system in between in the same competition. It's still a tournament. It's just 4 years long.
Yeah, there's that big turnaround period, and right now we're just not really seeing it all come together.
Yeah.
Lastly, before we head to break, do you think the motivation will work? Do you think the U.S. responds?
I think they absolutely respond, and I don't know if it's because Alexi Lalas went on this big rant. I just think they're going to find a way to get this done. I think within kind of the team and Bruce Arena, he's going to get this team to where they need to be. That's why he was brought in, and he's going to complete the job. It has to happen.
The match against the next match is going to be crucial, especially those first 20 minutes. You got to see a change in attitude in every single player. The 11 players have to be have a different aura when they step on the field, and that's going to give us a good sign to see if it worked or not.
Yeah, I hope right now with all the players talking about not listening to the opinion of a sheep and tweeting out like all these jokes on Twitter, I hope that it's a shell. And I hope that come October 6th, I believe it is, when they play Panama, I hope that they start to peel the shell and we start to see exactly what this team is all about.
Well, it'll be interesting to watch for moving forward. Around October, it'll be a big moment for the U.S. men's national team. But now, coming up after the break, our panel will flip the script and look local. We are talking IU men's soccer, so stay with us. Welcome back to the Toss-Up. Before the break, we discussed the direction of the U.S. men's national team. But now it's time for us to look at our own campus and one of the most talented college programs in the country, Indiana men's soccer. Now, gentlemen, you guys are out there covering the program, so what has really been the story of this team so far this year?
Well, right now, I mean, they're ranked number 2 in the entire country. So, I mean, this team from day one, they brought in this new freshman class, and I think people knew this group was special. And I think we've seen that out on the pitch so far. I mean, they have been just dominating teams, whether it's with a lot of goal scoring like we saw against San Francisco, or whether it's with the 5 clean sheets out of 7 matches. They've just been absolutely dominant on the pitch. It's really special to watch this team do what they're doing because they're doing it at such a high level.
It's a year that IU soccer has changed its goals. They're now setting to be the best in the country, and when the tournament comes, Big Ten, the best in the Big Ten, and when the NCAA comes, they can be the best in the NCAA as well. It's a team, a strong team with Grant Lillard in the back line, holding that team together, and with Rashad Hyacinth up on top. It's physically, the team is really good, and if you add Toy and Dorsey with their speed on the wings, it's a very complete team this year.
Yeah, and the freshman goalie, Trey Muse, like you said, 5 clean sheets so far. He has 17 saves on the season. He's just been absolutely tremendous. Like, so far, I haven't seen any holes in the team. I mean, it just seems like it's all going to be pretty perfect so far for the IU team. You thought that losing a guy like Tanner Thompson might really diminish the squad a little bit, but they seem to be doing fine, especially with guys like Toy and Dorsey stepping up in their freshman roles.
And you mentioned the lack of really a hole on this team. Is there any way this Hoosier team could improve? Is there anything that needs to be improved upon?
I mean, when you look and when you ask Coach Todd Yeagley, he's not going to really tell you that anything needs to be kind of fixed up too much because there really isn't a glaring hole on this team. You really only had to fill a couple roles. You had to fill that striker role, bringing in somebody else like Mason Toy, Thomas War, or Rashad Hyacinth from last year. You had to replace Tanner Thompson, who had 8 goals that led the team last year. But the only other kind of position battle you had to fill was at right back. Jordan Klein filled in there. He's picked up a little bit of a knock, so you don't know when he's going to come back. But Reese Buckmaster's filled in there. You had to fill in at that 10 role as well. But there really aren't too many holes on this team that you really need to address all too much.
Yeah, IU's playing well. It always looks like the dominant team on the field. The only thing that I would try to correct is goal efficiency. The other day I saw Hyacinth miss a couple of headers, open goal in front of the goalie a couple of times that cost them a win or 2. But if it's going to happen eventually, if the team plays well, the goals will come.
And what do you think the outlook for this team is moving forward? Do you think those high expectations are warranted?
Yes. I mean, it says by the number right next to their name in those rankings. I mean, they're the number 2 team in the country. They've won 8 national titles. It's the most since 1973. they have pressure on them. They know that they are capable of going out and winning a national championship. Now they just have to go do it. They're well on their way right now. That Notre Dame game Tuesday will be very interesting to see kind of where this team is at, because last year they lost 4-0 up at Notre Dame. So this will be interesting to see if they've kind of made that next step and those freshmen have come in and really fixed things.
I think it's all up here for Todd Yegley and his players, the way they're going to handle the pressure of being the best, having all the eyes on you. You're going to be the team to beat. It's all up to them now to like capitalize on their opportunities and earning that spot that they fight through the season.
Yeah, we've already seen them hold their own against Maryland, at Maryland, didn't give up a shot on goal at all. We saw them go 1-1 against Michigan, which was a tough game because of the conditions that were out on the pitch. So that one's a tough one to judge. And then, like you said, Josh, that game against Notre Dame next week on Tuesday could be a number 1 versus number 2 matchup.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if any year where IU has a really good chance to win, this is the year.
Now, we mentioned to start this how impressive the freshmen have been, and you mentioned how mentality is going to be key moving forward. Do you think these freshmen specifically can handle the rigors of the rest of the Big Ten schedule and even the NCAA tournament?
So far they have. They look like players that have been playing with this team for a long time. The way they have the character to win the line, to pass their defenders and take crosses in, it's fantastic. Now we got to see against Notre Dame next week. We got to see it at the Big Ten. I feel like that's the moment when the leaders of the team, like Moore, Trey Muse, also as a goalie, and Grant Lillard, they need to talk to them and make them like a better player for the team.
Yeah, I mean, Lillard, he was named a captain for this team. He's an All-American. He said he's proud to be the captain of this team. He's wanted that since freshman year, and now he's leading this team to where they want to go. Him and that back line have been so impressive to watch. Andrew Gutman as well, Timmy Mel, Jordan Klein, and Reese Buckmaster. That back line has been one of the best in the country. 5 clean sheets. That just says it all right there. They don't let anything get past them unless they make a mistake, and they don't really make a whole lot of mistakes.
And I totally forgot about Gutman. He's like such an exceptional player, perhaps one of the best players in the country right now.
Yeah, and
he's crazy, going from that left flank all the way into the opponent's box.
Yeah, and he's tied it with the team lead with 3 goals with Mason Toy. So he's a big-time scorer. He's fixed that over the offseason, and it's really showing out on the pitch.
And you mentioned that Andrew Gutman, really the story of improvement. Last season, only one goal all year off 40 shots. This year, he already has 3 goals on the season. We're so early on. Having him is probably so pivotal for this team. Now, we've mentioned a lot of names. What's a name on this Indiana roster that doesn't really get thought of much, that is really talented?
Francesco Moore. He is the engine of Indiana University soccer. In that midfield, he's always cutting opponent attacks and generates whenever he can.
Yeah, it's Frankie Moore, and also in that midfield is Jeremiah Gutjahr. He's a Bloomington native. Those two are very similar players. I think Moore is more of kind of a holding midfielder. He's just going to sit right up top of that back line. He's just going to hold it back, make sure nothing happens that he doesn't see is bad for this team. And Gutjahr is kind of more of a player where he can go box to box. He can give you a 10 roll, or he can sit back a little bit more. We've kind of seen a lot of that from Gutjahr this year. So Moore and Gutjahr, 2 players, they aren't going to get in the box score all that often, but they are so crucial for this team.
Yeah, it's really players like that don't get on the stat sheet the whole time, where they're really the most crucial players on their team and the most effective. On the women's soccer team, because I do all of their games, Kayla Smith, she's a senior midfielder, and she never scores. She has 1 assist, I believe, on the year. Doesn't score any goals, but she is tough as nails at 5'1". She does all the dirty work, and she's the point guard of the team, essentially. Whenever something needs to happen, if the team isn't creating any offense, you give her the ball, you let her take care of it. That's kind of like the role that Gutjahr and Frankie Moore are playing on their respective squads. They're just really out there to do whatever they can to help out the team. They don't need to score. They don't need to get the assists. They know what they're doing, and Yegley knows that they're the most important players.
Yeah, I feel like if Moore has a good day, IU has a good day. If Moore has a bad day, IU has a bad day. That midfield is so compact that it determines the outcome of the games for the team sometimes.
And it seems so interesting that you mentioned these guys and girls who play these roles that really are based off rigor and based off how aggressive and mentally strong they are. And it seems like they're perfect fits for what the U.S. men's national team might need. And now as we look to kind of close out this soccer show, I want to send it around to each of you guys to provide your final thoughts on what we've talked about today.
We're talking about soccer. I think it's a huge thing that here at Indiana University, we're talking about soccer. Now, I know the soccer program has been so big and so successful for so many years, but that we're having these conversations, I think, is just means soccer has come such a long way in this country. And going back to the U.S. for a sec, for them not to make the World Cup would really kind of tarnish what soccer's built up to be in the United States today.
I feel both the United States national men's team and IU men's soccer, they have all the resources to be the best in what they're doing in CONCACAF, in Big Ten, and the NCAAs. It's just up to the teams to use what they have, all these available resources, and becoming the best by working hard and giving your best when you're on the field.
Yeah, for the U.S. men's national team, I want to see them play with fire in their match against Panama. I want to see them come out. I want to see the energy. I really want them to show that they want to be there out on the pitch and they want to go to the World Cup. I know you say that you don't need to play your best. Even if you want to go to the World Cup, you can take a 1-0 win. But I want to see them go full throttle. I want them to be there, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Even if they lose, I kind of want to see them fighting for it.
You want to see some fight in them.
And we'll see if Alexi Lalas has anything to say after this one.
I hope.
It'll be interesting to see. From my final perspective, I think what we really hit on today was the importance of motivation, whether it comes from some extra source out there like Alexi Lalas or it comes from within. Players need to be motivated for action. You look at this Indiana men's soccer team, and they're remarkably talented, but that's not it. It's the motivation that they have that presents them the opportunities that they have all season long. You look at this U.S. men's national team, and arguably, they're pretty talented. You look at Christian Pulisic, he's playing on the national stage consistently for Borussia Dortmund. You're looking at guys that are playing in Europe that are talented, and this U.S. team could actually do something in the World Cup if they make it. And in order to make it, they better be motivated. That does it for the show this week. Be sure to continue the discussion on our Twitter page at IUSTV Sports and on our Facebook page at IUSTV Sports. You can always give any suggestions for the show and ask any questions you might have. Toss it up. Find out if we'll catch it. We'll see you next Sunday. Peace.